Hello everybody, welcome to our session. The name of this session is that the community knows the best innovative methods in the design of space. At the times when we are questioning the space and human beings, we're so happy to have a session with such a name. I believe you all agree with me, and I would like to thank the MARUF team for organizing this session. Civic participation, interdisciplinary research practices, and local participation will be in the focus of the approach of the communities, and the participatory practices will be heard. My name is Atılım Şahin. I'm going to facilitate this session for you today. I'm not alone here. I'm together with 5 great persons, 5 great speakers. Today's speakers are from Accessible City Workshop, Tahir Yarımoğlu, from UNDP Turkey, Gülşah Eker, Emre Güzel from the founding partners of Roof Korobi, founder and manager of Cross Change Tuğçe Akbulut, and Justice in Space Association General Coordinator, Mr. Yaşar Adnan Adanalı. I'm going to introduce them in more detail, but first I would like to introduce myself. Throughout my life, I had a voyage where I was involved in different disciplines, and I have described myself with different titles: engineer, designer, or actor. But for quite were my titles in the past. But for quite a long time, I have titles like community developer and facilitator. This is how I prefer to describe myself. I have been part of workshop for 6 years. You know, workshops a strategic design studio, academy, and creative platform. And it takes the power of its community and it develops creative services. We have hubs in Istanbul and in Dubai. I am the communities director in the workshop. I am working on impact-oriented results. It's enough to talk about myself. We have a limited time. In total, we have 1 hour, and we are going to listen to 5 different presentations. We are going to have 8 minutes for each presentation. During the presentation, you can write your questions to the chat box under the screen, and in the end, we will respond to your question in the Q&A session. If you are posing your question towards a specific participant, please add this to your question. Then, now experiences. Tahir, if you are ready, the floor is yours. Atılım, thank you very much. First, let me share my presentation. Now it is visible, I guess. Hello once again. Before starting my presentation, I would like to talk about the development of community design. Community design was emerged because of the need for collective activities, and today it is being used in the communities for reflecting their own opinions, and processes are being organized for involving the people in their specialty areas. Together with the technology, and design innovation has emerged, and the design is developed according to the needs. Today, I would like to talk about ECA. Accessible City project is a new generation collective working culture, and by gathering together young individuals and communities, it aims to make original ideas and communities visible. We are creating an ecosystem for this end, and for 2 years we have been carrying out this work. As I have said earlier, we are working in 3 different titles and areas. In creative design, with the productions in different stages of design, we are creating a production ecosystem. We are undertaking a duty of being art director in community design. ECA Collect is the community leg of ECA, and we are developing social impact-oriented projects, and there's an alternative innovation team for doing that. And in the scope of universal design, our goal is to make all the users benefit from the same experiences. In our projects as ECA, we are carrying out work which will have a positive impact on the community. I would like to talk about the projects in ECA. Within 1 month after the onset of the pandemics, we have made evaluations and assessments and reports about the future scenarios after the pandemic. As we are a young team, within the first 1 month, we have actively used Zoom, and later we have published Kuzguncuk Beylerbeyi Accessibility Report, and we have investigated and visualized the accessibility situation in these towns. And later we have organized an Equality in Town workshop. We work together with 40 different civil society organizations and academicians in order to give instant reactions to the daily incidents. We discussed the accessibility workshop with the actors, and with Tepebaşı municipality we have organized a workshop on accessibility. And I would like to talk about our mobile application, Point. Point is a smart city application which prepares a game. The users can collect points, and with those points they can get awards in their localities. And the Point is a incubation application. It will be implemented by Esenler municipality very soon. ECA Collect is a collective community of designers from different disciplines. For a common problem, the individuals from different disciplines contribute according to their own specialties. At the moment, we have 5 ongoing projects. One is the Route Discoverer. It's for children, and the children are neglected in design, and they do not have the mobility to get to know their cities, and it's trying to raise awareness in this subject. In this way, children do traveling and they experience. For this reason, we are preparing city routes and stations. Another project is Kaynak, and the question was how we can make the design in the most comprehensive way. For easy and efficient participatory methodologies, we organize various design processes. The participation should be implemented, and at the end, the production and the product should be as inclusive as possible. A guideline has been published where you can investigate the methods. And in October, women in mass transport will be initiated. Together with women participants, they will be assessing the problems of women in mass transportation. After that, 1 second in the city. The motto is travel voyage to any second, any moment on the city. On those routes, the city dwellers are taken on a voyage through the history of the city. The bridge between the past and today, and the users it believes that it's important to increase the belonging feeling of the users, and was started with the workshops. Firstly, 1 moment in Yeni Kapı workshop was made. Next project is Change Lenses, Change Feelings. The goal of this project is to approach mental problems in a sensitive way. For CLCF, innovation is a human-centered approach, and to provide services in a human-centered way. The technologic and the special design is united with the artistic applications. The last project is 13, It's actually about the climate crisis, which is the 13th goal of Sustainable Development Goals. The climate crisis is taken into the center, and the project is aimed at creating more sustainable spaces. Here, public space is the final aim of this project. I'm coming to the end of my project. Here I would like to talk about our team. In our projects, the design innovation is taken together with the innovative approaches, and we have a new generation team, as you can see on the screen. And I'm concluding my remarks by thanking this team. I thank each of them one by one, and I'm leaving the floor back to Atılım. Thank you very much, Tahir. Really, it was very exciting presentation, and we are closely following ECO. If you have any questions to Tahir about ECO, you can write them in the chat box. And those questions, we will receive those questions directly in our panel. We will continue with the second presentation, which will be delivered by Gülşah. Gülşah Eker is UNDP Turkey Acceleration Laboratory Solution Mapping Manager. Gülşah will be talking about innovative solutions on sustainable city development. Since 2019, in Mimar Sinan Fine Arts Faculty Urbanization Program, she is doing her PhD. Today, she will be talking about Marmara Union of Municipalities and UNDP Acceleration Lab organized a workshop in Gökçeada, and she will be talking about the process and her experiences. Gülşah, are you around? Thank you very much, Atılım. Hello, everybody. For about 1 year, we have been carrying out this project, and it's the longest lasting project that we have done so far. And with participatory methods, this project was initiated in Gökçeada area, Gökçeada Island. In the scope of sustainable cities and communities, in the crisis conditions, it gives within Sustainable Development Goals 11 and SDG 12 aims to create an open community hub that caters multiple benefits, allowing flexible space and uses for changing needs and conditions. Consider zero-waste actions in which design elements are made from different types of discarded or unused materials in Gökçeada. It had many participants. One of them was Japan, and we twinned with that design partner in Japan, and Sotonoba was our partner in this process. Inside the project, in order to carry out Turkish pillar, we made an open call with Marmara Union of Municipalities, and as a result of this open call, we have selected Gökçeada Belediyesi as our local partner. As we have multiple partners, it's in this project the coordination was used very widely, and we had two phases: design and implementation. In the first phase, which is participatory design, people of Gökçeada and young people came together. We worked with 4 different groups, and with this study, this was the first field trip in Gökçeada. Later, we could not repeat it because I'm going to come into that subject soon. The main goal of the workshop was to use tools where every user can express themselves, and so that they can carry out those activities in an interactive. And at the end of this workshop, we have prepared a concept design, And finally, with the approval of the municipality, it was finalized. Throughout this process, we have encountered some barriers like physical distance, and here we have used the recommendations and the information that we collected from the from the public, and we turned them into a design. And in order to use the principles of the joint design, we worked together. But after the pandemic, the face-to-face communication became impossible, and we used the online communication tools. And we have opened a new experiment area about people expressing themselves. We use structured sessions, and we had access to children, and we organized workshops which could be understood by children. At the end of the design century, these concepts are very much interrelated. For greeneries, the trees should not be cut. For children, there must be safe and enjoyable spaces, and for women, there should be more production and manufacturing opportunities. And new designs should be feasible for different production methodologies. As a result of all these online workshops, in the feedback of the participants, we have reached the result that many design principles could be taken from the community members, and we have found out that online tools could be valid tools. And the final concept design was a rotunda, and this is the main structure, and lay around it there are certain sitting elements, but these are modular. While a child is jumping, the mother can sit next to them, or they can be turned into a table. I will come into the implementation team. With the support of Gökçeada municipality, we are making the implementations, and one of the most valuable contributions is that they are all made up of wastes, and we meet with the volunteers from the people of Gökçeada, and they can make designs. Here we are also organizing conversations and talks for discussing the future of this area, and all the working process is really very important, and the barriers could be overcome. We still need to see and recognize the partners more, and we need to develop practices of organizing ourselves, and for this it's very important to have a common dialogue. In these kind of works, we become more productive and efficient. Thank you. Atılım, I'm leaving the floor back to you. Thank you very much, Gülşah. If you have special questions to Gülşah, you can leave them on the chat box, and at the end of the session, we will be very happy. She will be very happy to answer those questions. We continue with another beautiful person, Emre Güzel. Emre is working on creating communities living together and civic participation. He's one of the founding partners of Roof Columning. Under Roof Columning, they are carrying out really exciting works, and I'm following them. Emre is part of a social initiative, and today he will be talking about the solution proposals that they develop, and he will be talking about civic participation and participatory design. The cities are considered as a common living area, and in order to live together with our different identities, now let's listen these stories from Emre. Emre, if you are live, we are connected to you. Hello, I'm live. Thank you very much for the introduction, Atılım. I'll be sharing my screen. I just wanted to welcome you with a visual. We can create a new way for living together. The first common living space was established in Denmark, It was established by the young people, and this is a common living area operated by young people, and the young people also live. Their motto is not me, we. In Copenhagen, the prices of housing is very high, and this common living area is much lower than prices. What do we see in Istanbul, in Turkey? In Istanbul, Çağlayan district, you can see this kind of room for 900 lira. And in Düzce, the landlords are getting extra commission as if they are the dealers. In this sense, as roof co-living, our center is human and we are acting as a social community movement. We are different, but we are similar about the values, and we can live together with different identities and experiences. We are asking if it is possible to organize co-living areas in Turkey. Our goal is to make the home culture a common and joint life. In this way, we are trying to change the design understanding, and we would like to minimize the problem of housing. As we are not founding partners, actually we are the advocates of co-living area. We started as a community, how to define a co-living area and what could have happened, and we have made a workshop at the end of 8-month process in the city. What would happen if we could use the idle places? And the first gap was fill in the blank workshop. In the scope of this workshop, the citizens were using and designing the gaps between the apartment blocks. And this was a digital workshop. And another workshop was the digital design of the co-living areas. So this is one part of the fill in the blanks workshop. Another importance of this is this: different co-living areas have been designed by our community, and for this basis, the visual works were built with a participatory workshop. Beyond the visuals, what should be the governance method of this area? Which stories are required or designed for this living area? And we have written the story of co-living at the end of this workshop. So these micro level common living areas, when we think of the cities as co-living areas, can the cities become co-living areas? And as Jane said, only when cities are created with everyone's participation, they can give something for everybody. So as the citizens of the city, to what extent we can join and get involved in the city? To what extent we can be involved in decision-making processes? This is what we have discussed. And pandemic reminded this situation once again. The existing public spheres functions had to be renewed once again, and we have experienced it as a citizen. In this scope, together with the community, we have created the Participatory Cities program, and this is the program that I would like to mention. Together with partnership of Eskişehir Metropolitan Municipality, İzmir Metropolitan Municipality, and Youth Center, we have organized an 8-week semi-structured program. Community city participation were the components of this program, where we have learned from one another and we have made designs together. What I would like to mention is community meetings. When we were talking about common living areas, we are trying to exist in the city, but in community meetings, We share our experiences about the city, and we discuss the values that we should that should gather us together. And finally, in the small scale, applicable realist interventions were created. And we have developed different activities, and we have developed intervention response designs. I would like to show a few examples of that. What's our mission? What we would like to change? What's our goal? Is it sustainable intervention, small or big? These were the debates and discussions, and we have decided to go with this. There were walls, and there were some graffitis written on the walls of homes. We have seen a conflict as well as a tool needed by people for sharing their opinions. Yes, actually the outputs were in two ways. We described these workshops as a participation area. In closing, I wanted to make a quotation. The commons framework is not enough for solving the problems about the urban sphere, but it's useful for making the relationships which cannot be possible with other conceptual tools. So we are trying to understand these relationship practices. Centralist and ownership design approaches are instead of them, is it possible to make a common design practice? We are questioning this, and we are trying to create this in Turkey. I can leave the floor back to you, Atılım.
Müştereklik kavramı, ev kültürünün müşterek.
Thank you, Emre, about this mutuality concept of mutuality. I'd like to utter a few words at the end of this round. Actually, we have received a few questions, and I would like to remind our participants that you can leave their questions to the small box in the corner of the screen. Now I will invite dear Tuğçe as the next speaker, who is an interdisciplinary social designer dealing with spatial design and arts directory. She looks at the impact of design on social and environmental aspects, and she has a design studio which is an impact focused studio called Cross Change. Under Cross Change's umbrella, she designs creative projects to transform the society.
Hollanda
enables them to meet around the common topics, and Tuğçe has a production traditional project approach and participatory and stakeholder participation. Also, she has a Beşiktaş Barbaros experimental park, pop-up park Istanbul, conducting social impact assessment there. She will tell us about the why and how of this project. Tuğçe, the floor is yours. Thank you, Atılım. I'll share a presentation with you as well. Hi to everyone. My name is Tuğçe. I will be telling about pop-up Istanbul project. Not actually how we carried it out, but rather what we did after its staging. We listened to various participatory projects and how they were implemented, and we met with beautiful people doing that. Actually, we adopted these similar approaches and created a transitory public design space in Beşiktaş. Of course, what made this project special for us is what we did after this project met with people. We construct things, they meet with people, but what happens next? Actually, this is the second leg of a project starting 1.5 years ago. The first one was a smaller scale project. We made wheelchairs with actually projects and let certain people on it, and then we wanted to ask whether the things we do works or not. And working in a social innovation platform for 1.5 years, I looked at how they measured the impact of social events, and actually they were designed before the production journey. And based on those learnings, I merged my design background and I asked the question of whether it served its purpose. Here we could have done a lot of things, a lot of other things, but here we determined a main target, and we wanted to understand what kind of a public space, what kind of a service the public space provides. And based on the first phase, the becomes all the more special with the feedback mechanism becoming one of the most important elements. And change method, change theory was concerned or social return and investment. Benefiting from these various methods where the social impact was assessed, and we transformed that into our own system. The main goal was to make Istanbul a more livable city, and within our boundaries we wanted to make it easy to reach these targets, and we wanted to create new questions. We predetermined them actually, and we have acquired a lot of interesting sets of data. In addition to happy people there, we have statistical data. We had 175 one-on-one interviews with the people experiencing it, and 84% of them, after their pop-up Work Istanbul project, wanted to spend more time in this Beşiktaş Park. We actually designed the park around different goals. One of them was actually bringing back the greenery. Another one was meeting different needs with different sections and creating multifunction elements. So we had a few targets and we asked relevant questions to people about what they liked, what they disliked, what they supported. So the participatory process was followed by the construction phase, and then we asked them whether they really liked it. 93% of the people who would like to spend time there said that it's thanks to a multifunctional situation. And we actually made this whole 1.5 year process overlap with the pandemic. That's why we had to design the entire process. When we ask people, you are seated here next to each other, face to face, side by side, do you feel safe? I mean, we changed the design with respect to 1.5 meters, and this much people said they feel secure, especially when you have spatial projects. You try to understand whether you succeeded something or not. This is the enjoyable part of the story. Yes, they used it. Yes, they were there seated during their lunch breaks. Sometimes we designed it like a table, but it turned into irrelevant play elements, game elements, as you see here. Some people checked the description cards were placed next to the plants and they learned new things. Also, we had this skateboarding material in the park, and they were used by these skateboarders, or as citizens started to carry a small bottle and to irrigate the flowers here, and then they started to own own it, or some people used it to dry their clothes after swimming in the Bosporus. In the evening, it turned to a public place that was illuminated. Yes, it was used, liked by the families too, but the biggest difference is that in addition to these smiling people, we have figures too. We evaluated them and we understood that 88.3% of people had a positive impact. We created a positive impact for them. Why do we value it? Because we have limited time, limited financial resources. Times are changing, needs are changing, and we need to take quick steps that meet these requirements very well. But we also need to explain whether they work or not. So if you are curious about it, curious about whether the effort you exert is worth it, you can contact us as we continue to experiment around these themes. We all set out with good intentions. We designed them with good intentions. We saw some of them didn't work at all. It's great that we asked about them, because we will continue to transfer our learnings from A to B, B to A, and continue to learn. Thank you very much, Tuğçe. I would like to spend a little time about the next concept, but without losing time, I would like to give the floor to Yaşar. Yaşar is from Adana, an urban expert, a social initiative. He is the founding member of Justice in Space Association. He also is the founder of Postane, which is about cultural transformation. They are producing multidisciplinary ideas and projects, and he is one of the initiatives actually that conduct the most inspiring projects in Turkey. Let's listen to him. Let's listen to his perspective. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Maruf, and I would like to thank you for their nice moderation. It has been great for me actually that I speak as the last speaker, as I was nourished by other speakers doing great works in this field. And maybe I can first address the community concept before discussing my points. The community knows the best, we say in this session, but we know the community. I have been racking my brains about it for a long while. As an academic, I have been trying to place the concept of community to the center, but actually we have difficulty translating the concept of community into Turkish. Let's go to another extreme and deep dive by referring to Ellen Ratton, who had this book, The Myth of Community. Actually, he takes a step further, saying that community is a myth, is a construct. Here, what we define as a community in a group of people is actually creating groups. People's problems and interests are very complicated. How can we include them within the same framework? There are many barriers. When we expect the individual or the community to overcome those practical barriers, we actually see things like tyranny or participation nightmare. And we are also a part of methodological preassumption. What is that? The community knows the best. But does the community have a solution to the climate change? Isn't that unfair to us, considering the carbon industry, big corporations, and the interest groups? So, based on that, we think about the community on one side let's say, as a myth, as a mythology, but we talk about social organizations since early 2000s. We've been talking about it for the past 10 years. That's how my studies also started, spatial communities, social communities, but now we're talking about technological communities, and even in the pandemic we talk about hybrid communities. So in the past, some of us did not actually own up to simple terms of communities, but now we are building the digital ones. Then we come to ask this question of a concept of community in terms of congregation or sect, or here are we talking about like free flows, or are we talking about actually we can say that communities can get into sects very quickly and they take us into echo chambers. So we should be also asking this question. And when I say actually community, I think of the Benedict Anderson's book Imagined Communities. So how do we imagine the community? If it is imagined, and I definitely believe it is imagined, how does it get shaped in our mind? How do we imagine the community? Of course, here we have a scale aspect, local, global, and then we see the values, principles. We feel the need to talk about these values here. They become diversified. We talk about accessibility, or we say inclusivity rather than excluding, or we refer to mutual care, or we refer to ecological, flexible, and participatory nature of community. Okay, this is not enough at all. Then we have to build. We have a community manager, and we say that co-living spaces should be thought of. In this building, what do we see as at the forefront? First, we cannot, it's like we ignore the past and we take the future for granted in a very excessive way. How can we build a society there? I think of it in functional senses, and I think that that is the case at different scales, and even in multidisciplinary activities. In our own activities, we see such aspect. Why? Because it involves the risk of having segregations, and we are actually making the ground of community building flexible. Is it related to pandemic only? Well, that was the case until the last pandemic. We need to be more variable. We need to be more efficient. We say we need to exert more impact, and we need to build communities like this. But reproduction, the state of goodness, the right to be lazy, and socialization actually are addressed more on this community ground. And here we need to keep in mind the relationship between animals and humans, or humans and other creatures, in addition to the relationships between humans. And here the memory of the urban area, our memory as individuals and community actually play a huge role in community building as well. And that's what we see in other projects as well as our projects. When all those are evaluated from spatial terms, we see spaces that have the potential to be transformed, and I think they will play a very critical role there. I would like to wrap up my part by saying that I was trying to understand what community is, how we built it, and I actually started to work on the Atılım project for creating actually spaces. This is what we see from the post office, and here we ask what kind of a community space can occur. And on the 9th of October, we are going to have an inauguration soon. Let me make this announcement. Here we see a few examples. I would like to refer to the concrete examples, as I referred to conceptual framework so far. How did we localize the society, the community? Actually, in specialization, we had a construction site process, and all the stakeholders were invited. And here we had colleagues who studied just the history of a building, like conducting and building archaeology, looking at the traces, what kind of actually heirs lived there, so that we can depict our identity in the city without severing our ties with them. No single contractor, no single implementer, no single designer, no single artisan worked here. We tried to collaborate with as many as possible. We used all the materials coming from the building. We tried to place them in this non-original or non-historical cycle. And there was this administrative supervisor who knew about the history of the building, as he resided there for 30 years, and he preserved our connection with the building and the neighborhood. I said flexible rooms, so we asked whether we could evaluate every room with a few functions. And we tried to force the means as we designed this specialization example. That is what we do actually in terms of community as a concept and in concrete examples. Thank you very much, Yaşar. Just before you started your speech, we received a question about the concept of community, and they asked what the participants actually, how the participants approach it. It seems like you have seen the question. Thank you very much for this beautiful presentation. Hopefully we will try to connect these questions with each other, and we see beautiful questions on our screens. So community and participatory nature of community were the subject of a few questions. Public designs and public interferences should actually enjoy participation, but there's a huge spectrum here. We can talk about sometimes just the two options, asking the participants about a simple answer. Sometimes we say we have decided to do this, just actually give a little nudge so that we do it together. In another participation example, you ask people what their needs are, what kind of a transformation they need, so that they can come up with a different perspective. We see this wide spectrum, and we listen to your side of the developments where you place humans at the center. So what kind of barriers do you encounter in terms of placing humans at the center, and how you overcome these barriers in your own activities? You can think of this question in terms of creating a consensus in participatory processes, where you need to bring people together to create a joint decision. So how do you reach this consensus? How does the process take place? That's a question for all. Anyone wishing to answer can take it. I can give it a little answer. In this Pop-Up Park Istanbul project, as you know, it is one of the squares, big squares of Istanbul. Actually, it is like a transition route, an area of mobility. There is not a fixed user for this park area. So what kind of participation can we refer to? We try to force the boundaries of our experimentation. First, the only constant was the venue itself. We started by searching the historical facts. We looked at the stories written, for example, about that square. We read people's blog posts. We tried to understand what captivated memory, and we examined the thesis there. We came to understand that there was this tea house, a tea garden, and that it was actually adopted by the rest of the green area, and we wanted to develop the idea accordingly, asking whether we should do it or how we should do it, what the tea garden concept can be there, because we are going to talk about a multifunctional project. That's how we were approaching it. Then we tried to map the basic users of that area, starting with the kiosk owners or frequenters of the bus stop or people going through that area, as well as skateboarders who use the space on a daily basis. So we try to downgrade the user profiles to 4-5 profiles. We also had census, or we counted people in terms of the numbers, and we tried to understand which parts they used. After identification of people, we actually spoke with them one by one. When we approached, for example, a citizen saying we want to have this multifunctional area with green concentration, and probed what they needed, they gave their answers, and then we asked what this meant for them, what that meant for them. We asked whether there was anything wrong, and then we synthesized all these again. Also, we spoke with anthropologists, sociologists from Beşiktaş municipality. So participation, or participatory nature, was about hearing all those voices, but it was us who synthesized them. We tried to act or function like a filter, and we tried to actually turn to this change for demand without cutting all those routes altogether. So actually everything was synthesized, turning into a clear-cut sentence and a design actually proposition. So we tried to, as the proofreader of this sentence, had difficulties, of course, in terms of placing the main role, because regardless of how many people you listen to, how many stakeholders you refer to, everything is shaped around your intention. So we could not think of a more holistic approach other than what I have described. Just a little remark. Of course, Yaşar, listening to your views now. Well, participation here, let's say these are civilian practices, and we listen to examples of civilian participation, but generally when we are invited by more invite a more corporate organization, that's also part of the participation. But when we have our own initiatives in terms of public projects or other processes, I think it is always important to preserve that distance, because participation or participatory nature of things is a good thing. We never oppose that. We never say, oh no, we better not participate. So thinking of such a beautiful concept, I think we should also preserve some distance. I mean, we should be able to have some discretion there in terms of the processes. If we can preserve such distances, then participation, yes, can be a matter of right, a strengthening practice, opening the way for citizenship. I mean, that's how we can actually reveal those opportunities, but we also need to look at the distance aspect. Thank you very much. In terms of relations between municipalities and local administrations, we see questions. There have been references to such cooperations with local administrations previously. What kind of opportunity areas, barriers do we see there? How can we increase the number of such common projects? What are the questions asked? Shortcomings in terms of collaboration with local administrations? I'll be happy if you can address them. I can try to give an answer. Participatory status and local administration is all about creating a dialogue. I think here we should start by talking about participatory design projects, which are exemplified by small-scale initiatives in Turkey, but we need to repeat them frequently so that we can learn them very well. And the local administrations are open and encouraging in many occasions. There are great opportunities there, but beyond all, we need to be transparent and tell people what resources to use, what communication channels they should use, so that they can reach out to those people. And we should understand whether we use these tools very transparently. I can give an example from Gülşah'da. In our common project with municipality, we focused on an area where certain design principles were shared with people in a transparent way. And here everyone cannot be directly a part of the project because it's an all-evolving project. There are ebbs and flows, like this part isn't in its best shape, etc., etc. But when we talk about common principles at the foundation of it, together with the other project managers, then I think we can act in a very transparent way based on those principles so that everyone can own up to the project, can be interacting with each other, and I think that would be one of the most effective ways to work with local administrations. Also, this is a learning potential, as if you are open to learning all together, then when fulfilling the project, we will all be exerting efforts, and that's a capacity building that can also happen through a capacity building program. That will be all from my side.